Hi guys, hello guys.
Hi.
Oh my god, yes, I'm sure you guys have seen the title of this video and you are excited as we are. Yes guys, we bought our first home here in Canada.
Yay!
Yay! Oh my god, how come we don't have wine? No, that we're supposed to have wine. You guys should just wait, we are coming. Yes guys, I'm sure you guys have seen the video and you know from the thumbnail that today we're going to talk about our home. We bought our first home here in Ontario, Canada. Yeah. Oh my god, have your wine glass ready. I'm going to pop this at some point in this video. But yeah guys, we are so excited. You guys can already tell.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a long journey here. But anyway, for those who are new here, my name is Betsy. This is my husband,
Dunstan.
Yeah, Dunstan and I have been married 4 years and we've lived in Canada for like a little over 2 years. So yeah, so this is one of our experiences in Canada I want to share with you guys. Hopefully someone gets to learn a thing or two and hopefully you guys get to celebrate with us because this is like a huge milestone achievement for us. It's been a long time coming, but I mean, we are young people, so to be able to do this gives us some kind of, you know, happiness and satisfaction, right? Yeah, so how do you feel, Dee?
I feel great. I feel accomplished.
Yeah.
It's getting a house, it's a great milestone.
Yeah.
And it's not easy getting one, so I feel very, very happy.
Yay. Okay, yeah, so we're so excited. Like, I mean, guys, you guys know now it's not easy. No matter how you want to look at it, it's really not easy, except if you're gifted a house from your parents. But we are like first generation immigrants, so obviously this kind of feat is something huge for us. So
yes.
Yeah, so we are really excited that at least we've gotten to buy into the country. It really means that we are, you know, truly permanent residents, that we have a home
and we are here to stay.
We full ground.
No transfer.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, so let's get into the serious stuff. So yeah, so basically we don't want the video to be too detailed because yeah, we know that somebody might want to learn a thing or two from, you know, basically buying a house in Canada, but at the same time we want to, you know, share our experience with how it was for us. So please, before we start, it's important to state that whatever we're going to be saying here is really just our experience. We are not realtors.
No, we are not.
We are not mortgage brokers.
No, we are not.
This is Betsy and her husband, Dunstan, just being, you know, themselves and basically kind of sharing their experience to help someone who likely want to, you know, get into this process or just even watching it so that you can know how it is in Canada. Who knows, one day you might live here and, you know, this information will be beneficial to you or someone you know, right? Yeah. So thank you guys for watching so far. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. This is still a channel after all. Please turn on that bell. Let it ring. Yeah, let it ring so that truly we know that you're part of our family, right? Okay, we do have a notepad. Basically, we're going to be looking down from time to time, but we'll try not to make it distracting. The idea is just so that we can keep our line of thought. So bear with us, guys. Okay. Well, we'll have 10 points to share, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we have 10 points as to how we bought our home in Canada. We try to just summarize it into 10, you know, just to make our conversation easier, right? So yeah, so how we'll do it will basically be either of us talking through the process and then of course the other person chipping in. Okay. So yeah, so who's gonna start? Okay, so the first why do you always like say that I should start something? Did they say you start?
Well, you're more spontaneous than myself, so
okay, no problem. All right, so okay, yeah, so the first stage about buying a house in Canada would be the research stage. It's actually stage 0, so I wouldn't even put this as a main stage because I think for you to be watching this, likely you're already in your research stage. So it can be anything really. It can be watching a YouTube video, it can be asking your friends who bought homes how it was like for them. It's not something to be snoopy about, I think. Okay. This is how it worked for us though. I guess some people can have their different opinion, but basically I feel like, you know, reaching out, asking questions in the Igbo. So, that's in Igbo, it means ask questions just in case. So that's basically what it means, and that's how I take that's how we approach life. Basically, we ask questions.
And in Pidgin, it says, "Person will ask questions, no the laws."
Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah. So basically, aside the language and linguistics, you guys can already tell what we mean, right? So basically, you ask questions. You ask people that have done it before. Just how was it for you? High level. They should just give you a summary of the process. That way, you're preparing yourself and the mistakes that they made, you can already start to avoid it. Okay, so yeah, so aside research, the next thing now, which is basically what we term our step 1, would be the credit score process. Yes.
Okay, so the credit system, most countries abroad work with a credit system where you have to build something like a score that shows that you are credible enough to get some sort of loan or credit from the government or from the bank. So it is very important that you build that. So a good credit score is probably from 700 and above, but
in Canada,
in Canada, right? But for you to buy a house, you just need about 600. Now, the lower it is from 700, the higher the interest you most likely get.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you have a very good credit score, the interest rate on the mortgage you're getting will probably be lower than what you would have gotten if otherwise. So in order to build your credit score, first of all, you need to first get a credit card. The fastest way to get a credit card is to open a bank account in the country and then get a credit card and maintain a credit card. To maintain the credit card, you have to spend and repay before the due date.
The due date, very important.
Also, credit cards have limits. So your credit card could be 1,000 limits, 2,000, 5,000, depending on what the bank offers you.
Offers you, right?
Try to keep and stay below 30% utilization of your maximum limit.
It's a system that is designed based on credit. So they will give you, even without you asking, they will just offer it to you. Take it because you will actually need it, right? Like he said. However, since you know that on a good day you were not someone who was used to credit, don't come here and now become onibese. What do they call them? Basically, just don't come here and start spending beyond your limits. So keep it within 30%. Like what it means is if you have a $1,000 Canadian dollars credit card, don't spend beyond $300 on that card for that cycle. It's as simple as that. Don't go buying a lot of things just because you have 1,000, guys.
If you have 1, 2, 3 credit cards, it's good. The more you get, the better your credit system increases. But still, irrespective of the number. Stay below 30% utilization.
So yeah, so how then can you know this credit score? Well, I mean, in Canada at least, there are 2 credit bureaus, right? The TransUnion and the Equifax, right? Yeah. So either of them, I mean, you would likely, your bank already uses one of them, right? So that's fine. However, checking your credit history can either be a soft or a hard check. So you want to avoid hard checks. Hard checks is the ones that pull a lot of information. They go into more detail, right, when they are checking your credit history via a hard check. So most times you only keep that for like when you want to actually buy the house, like you are already at the point of offer, right? We're going to get to that. But when you want to just check what your credit score is, you can use all these like Borrowell, the ones that give you like a free credit score checks. Those ones, they are soft checks. They just tell you the number, so you have something in mind as an idea, but you don't go, drilling in. That way you don't go hurting your credit score, because each time there's a hard check, there's some kind of 5 points or 10 points that goes down again from your credit, and you don't want that to happen, guys. You want to, when you're about to buy a house, you want, in fact, only things that will increase your credit score. All right, so the next point now is saving up for your down payment. This is like point number 2. So once you're sure that your credit score is in a good place, you kind of want to start saving for your down payment. Now, how much would you need to save as down payment would depend on the affordability, like basically what kind of house you want to buy in Canada, right? So if you're, I don't know, a very rich guy from Nigeria coming in with a lot of money, like cash, right, and you already have a good job in Canada, you might be able to afford more than someone who is just basically starting up with like some kind of small minimum wage job in Canada. So everybody has their, basically, cut your coat according to your cloth, right? Yeah, so for instance, in Ontario, I know that if you want to buy a house that's like 500K and below, that's the price on that house, the down payment has to be 5%, minimum of 5%. But once it moves from like 500 to, let's say, 999,999, that's below 1 million, you kind of need to have 5% of 500K plus 10% of the difference, right? So if you're buying a house of 700K, it means you have to save up 5% of 500K, then 10% of 200K. Okay, it means that you have to save 45,000 Canadian dollars as down payment alone, not even any other costs like closing costs and all of that, which we'll still get to. So you guys can see it can be a very expensive process, which is why, like I said, you have to cut your coat according to your class, right? So basically, based on what you know you can afford, you start saving back. You go ahead, calculate it, then come back and start saving. So yeah, so this is like what I'm gonna say. Then how do you save now? So please, of course, I assume you're watching this because you probably earn some kind of income in Canada from your personal business, from work. You just have to be stringent. When you know you want to buy a house, you don't. That's not when you go and start spending on like unnecessary rent. Like, God, I so hate rent in Canada. Like, it's so expensive. So please try and reduce your rent, because that already means that each month you pay rent is an expense. The money is flying away. So you don't want that, right? Like we had to do that. Now we moved.
Yes, we did. We had to move from a very expensive apartment we were staying into a lesser.
Yeah, at some point, because we wanted to save money. So same thing too, that place was a serviced apartment in quote. It had its own things, TV, blah blah blah. We had to just get the apartment at the time when we did, but mainly we've now balanced a bit. We moved and just so yeah, so in Canada alone I've moved how many times? We have moved how many times? I will tell you that please move on, so long as it helps you save your money. Correct. Make that decision, and yeah, so it was kind of good for us. Then we moved, saved on our rent, had a strict family budget, so that only important things were purchased, so that way we had a more disposable income. So my husband earns money, I earn money, we join it together, and for us, again, personal experience, we have a joint account system for our home. So that way we're able to save up our our down payment in a joint account. The reason we use the joint account is just for simplicity. You're going to submit your account statements, right, when it's time to buy this house. So we just wanted it to be that when they say, okay, how much have you saved? One account, inflows are straightforward, there's no confusion. Like yeah, basically, which I think Justin is going to touch a bit on what we mean by trying to just keep your account simple. You don't want any confusion as to where your income comes into, because they prefer Canadian income as your down payment. That's another thing they won't tell you, but likely when you start seeing the questions they ask you, you would know that they want you to use income earned in Canada. So how do you then use income earned in Canada? It means you should have been able to show your pay slips, money coming in, save into a joint account, or at least an account that is just prepared for the purpose of saving your down payment. I would recommend this highly. It saves you a lot of stress when it comes to all these mortgage brokers reviewing your accounts, right? Yeah.
Right, correct. So what she's trying to talk about is what we term cleaning up your account. So you have to clean up your account for at least 6 months prior to when you're starting.
Yeah.
And what that helps you to do is it limits the number of checks and questions the banks, the lenders are going to ask with respect to the statement and your account information. So you try to limit any transaction that is probably above 1,000 Canadian dollars should be limited and not be sent to that account. Use a different account. So whatever goes into that account that you want to use for your mortgage should be something like your salary or from your spouse's salary. So it should be, or your child benefit.
Yeah,
so something that is coming from your account in Canada or from the government or from your employer.
Yeah.
That helps. That's more straightforward. When the banks are looking at it, okay, they know these monies are genuine and they are coming from reliable sources. And trustworthy sources.
Yeah, and that way they know it's your money. So basically, somebody's about to borrow you money, right? So they need to know how much of your own money you have saved. Now imagine if you now went to borrow down payment. That would mean that you're not, I don't know what I would say, you're not being truthful, but kind of, it means that you're not being truthful, because the down payment should typically be your own saving. It's a way of showing that, okay, I want you to borrow me 500,000, but at least on my own as a person, I've been able to save, let's say 50,000 for my down payment closing costs. It just makes the lender more willing to give you money than someone who, for instance, has 50,000, but it was basically given to them from their father in Nigeria. That means your leg is not strong enough in Canada. How then can I borrow you 500k? So that's just kind of, if you guys can look at it from a behavioral aspect, you can see that it's really just them trying to play safe, right? They want to borrow you money, they want to be sure it's yours. So just you too, if it's really yours, try to just minimize any other distraction coming to that account. I'm saying this thing because I know some of us do all this card transfer for Interact. I want to sell 1,000, somebody will pay. If you use your account for those kind of stuff, please.
You stop 6 months prior.
Yeah, 6 months before you buy your house. Just try and make sure that any money coming in there is salary, government, like, so that it's clear, like every money there is your own. it just saves you a lot of headache. And finally, for the purpose of down payment, another thing you want to know is that for you being a first-time home buyer, there are some incentives. Government can borrow you money actually for you to make up your down payment. However, you know, anything with this Canada, they will give you with one hand somewhere, somebody's going to collect it. So yeah, so government is also going to have a stake in the house that you buy, in the capital gains of that house, right? So basically, if they borrow you the 5%, for instance, down, what it means is whenever you want to sell that house, 5% of the value of whatever you're selling, or is it how much? I don't even know. But you guys do your research, right? You will see that the government is going to get some claim back. But of course, if you don't have and you want to use that method, please, by all means, take the loan. It's an interest-free loan. It's just that they're going to have the same proportion of what they borrowed you. They're going to collect it when you are selling it. So if the house becomes 20 million tomorrow, just know that you're going to pay back government the same 5% of whatever they borrowed you when you were taking the loan. Then again, there are some other things. You can use your RRSP if you're already, you know, at that point. You can use a portion of your RRSP to do your down payment. Eventually, you can pay it back into your RRSP. So we don't want to get too technical, but basically, do your research around all the incentives that are available to you as a first-time home buyer. Personally, both of us, we just saved our own money. We didn't do any of all of these methods, but of course, we want to just let you guys know that it's available in case you want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, point number 3. Yeah, this is the third stage of trying to buy a house. Affordability. Yeah. Interesting part, I think.
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah. So do you want to tell us about that bit?
So basically, what affordability means in summary is what you can afford. So what you can afford is categorized or based on your income, your family income. So the bank would look at, or the mortgage broker would consider how much your family earns every month.
Everybody in the family.
Everybody in the family, including the children. So they look at the salaries that come in from Canadian government or sources or employers. Although sometimes if you do have other sources, let's say you're working back in Nigeria and you have salaries, you would have to prove and provide statements from those banks, provide your pay slips from your employer, and all those kind of stuff. But if you're basically just working in Canada, like we're just working in Canada, so we didn't need to show any other income because we wanted to clean up our accounts, right? So affordability, they are going to base your affordability on your family income. So,
and also a general rule of thumb for affordability is your yearly family income based on sources that are constant, I would say. So something like CCB, which is a child benefit, we all know that you get it every month. So in a way, they can work with that, right? Your salary as well, your gross salary, for instance, your husband and yourself. So let's just say, for example, he earns 50K, I earn 50K. What it means is 100K is our family income from salary. If OZ now, our son, earns, for instance, $500 every month, it means the same thing. They're going to do 500 times 12 and add it to this 100,000, right? And that will become our family income. How much then can we afford with a 106,000 being our family income for this example? What it means is like likely times 5, general rule of thumb, likely times 5 of what your family income is, bearing that you don't have any debt. So this is me and Dunstan, who did not school in Canada. We don't have any student loans. We bought our car cash. You know, basically we don't have any bese on our head. We are just two people who have salary, have our child bringing in small money, and that's it, right? So yeah, so you can work with like a general rule of thumb of 5 times your family income. If you are a single, you don't have family, of course 5 times your own income, right? That will give you an idea of how much they will calculate as your affordability. Now that in this case, now we use what 106 for sake of simplicity. You can say 105 times 5 gives you what 525K. That means that's what the maximum purchase price of the house that you can afford. This means everything. Once you just see the offer, once you see the listing, it's not 500 and anyway, we'll get to that. But basically what we're just trying to say is that the entire price, the value of the home that you can afford, will be 525K based on this example that we just provided. So that gives you a high level, right? Okay.
And to add to what she said with respect to that, so that your family income, they're going to subtract whatever debts that you pay every month. So if you have a car loan and you pay probably $400 every month on that car, that will be subtracted from that family income. If you have like a student loan where you pay, let's say $500 every month, that would also be, so at the end of the day, your family income would reduce because of loans and debts that you have. So that is why it is always nice when you come in to restrict or reduce the amount of debt that you get or loans.
Yeah, and I want to correct a misconception as well, because I know some people usually say, oh, because you need credit score to be high, go and take car loan or go and take. The truth is that you don't have to. It's a good way. It's just like how he said, you can take more than one credit card. It's not a problem, right? But at the same time, why do you want to go take a car loan? That's a huge debt just because you want to improve your credit score. You can do the same thing with credit card of 3K. That way, you know every month you're paying how much, what you used, not necessarily an interest debt or anything. So that's what I would just say. You don't have to take a car loan. Even if you don't hear from anybody, hear it from us. We don't have a car loan on our head and we bought a house in Canada. So that tells you that it's not a requirement, right? It's just something that some people do. But we didn't have to do that because our credit score was already good. And how was it good? We did all the steps that Dunstan had already told you earlier, right? So basically, that's what I would just say. And then don't you just have every reason to be grateful that we did school in this country? What I mean by this is because, you know, Canada, student loans, like, are almost, you can't avoid them really for most, you know, degrees, right? They're expensive. So just knowing that I moved from my country already educated meant that I could start working and earning my full salary and not have to pay anybody. For, I mean, how much did I pay in Kefi to study accounting? So that already tells you, right? So yeah, so that's another thing. It just gave me every reason to actually be thankful at this point, like knowing fully well that I was debt free. Yeah, or we were debt free, right? Yeah, so okay. And lastly, on affordability, if you want to know what your affordability score would be, you know, we just gave you high level five times. You can check this on the CMHC website. We're going to include all the links of anything that we find helpful to this video. So you guys just check the description box of this my video and you will see all the links to all the websites. So for affordability, you need to do it on the CMHC calculator. That will tell you how much your family can afford to buy. Okay, next point will be location. So yeah, once you have your credit score sorted, you have your down payment saved, you know, determine how much you can afford. The next thing will be to say, where should I buy the house? And we are saying location because it might not necessarily be where you have been living or that you will buy your house in Canada, your first house in Canada. Please note that if you live in different provinces, cost of living are not the same everywhere. So if you live in Canada, you would know that Ontario, British Columbia, these are like the two expensive provinces in Canada, right? So yeah, so you might be living in Toronto since when you were just, you know, a student or maybe even just working. When it's time to buy a house, you might have to move out of Toronto just because of your affordability. Now, knowing fully well that you might have been able to afford your rent, but you might not be able to afford your mortgage for the same place you are living. So that will tell you that, you know, you may need to move, right? Yeah, so I think that's the next stage. You determine where you want to buy the home. Please note that markets are different. I'm going to draw your ear. Markets are different. You know, we said you should do research, Abby. When you are doing that research, just be having pinch of salt for the market. So if someone lives in Calgary and is telling you they bought a house and they're giving you this, oh, they even maybe beat down the price from the seller wanted 550, they offered 520 and they got it, yay! That might not be applicable in Ontario, or let's even use where I live, right? Kitchener, Ontario. Here you have to add more, you have to bid higher than what the value or what the purchase price is. And simply the only reason I can just give simply is demand and supply. You have more people here who want to buy homes and there are more or less fewer homes. So in a way, people have to outbid each other to buy a house. And then I mean, once you've determined at least the area where you want to buy, and I will advise you to determine an area so that you don't waste time in this process, because if you just want to buy anywhere in Ontario, it means you keep searching for house everywhere in Ontario. And why do you want to do that? So try and narrow it down based on your affordability, right? If you know you can afford maybe a 500k house, what it means is that, and you probably determine that in Ontario there's usually an asking price and there's usually a bidding price. So if you determine that the average bidding price is 100k over asking, it means that you should just go into like a realtor.ca, zolo.ca, we're going to link all of this, and then go and search for houses at 400, because that means that's your true affordability. Knowing fully well that you would have to add 100 on top whatever you see. Abby? Yeah, so basically that's what you do. So you don't go looking at houses anywhere. So you see a house, beautiful house in Toronto for 600, you're gonna start checking it. Why do you want to do that? You want to hurt yourself. Just go for houses that are already at the price that you can afford. That way you reduce your wasting. In fact, you won't waste time. How long did we even spend buying a house in Canada?
We spent about a month.
A month, yeah, a month and a half. I think
that's because of this kind of information that we already got.
Then again, I mean, when you're looking for a house, you should have your checklist, right? So this is the point where you also want to say, what are the important things for me? Do I want to buy a condo? Do I want to buy a townhouse? Do I want to buy a
terrace?
Yeah, do I want to buy a detached house? Do I want to buy a terrace house? basically all the things that are important to you. Do I want a house with a garage? Do I want a house where you can park on the street? Do I care much about, you know, a house that has good schools close by? You might not care if you don't have children yet. Let's assume you're just a single girl in Canada, maybe 28 or so, and you know that you're not having children in another like 3-4 years. I mean, you can buy a house even where the schools are bad, knowing fully well that before your first child will get to the point of starting school, you likely have moved away from that area. Correct. So yes, all of these points came into play for us. So we wanted some certain things. We wanted at least a good location that had like stores nearby, considering that we're a young family, we'll likely be doing a lot of grocery shopping. So all of these things, like your list can be endless, but please, of course, make it the important things. Know that when you're making your list, there's some things that you can change and there's some things you cannot change.
That's very important. That is very important.
Yeah, because I feel like people can just say, oh, I want a house that has a garage, for instance. That's an important thing, because if you buy the house, you can't go constructing a garage. No, so it means that if you buy a house that doesn't have a garage and you wanted a garage originally, you will be angry every day you live in that house. You'll be swearing for yourself that, how did I buy this house? Why did I buy? So just basically, I mean, make it an important thing in your list. But for instance, if you wanted a house that has 2 toilets, assuming, and you go and check out a house that has 1 toilet, but looks like it has a very large basement that you can construct a toilet, that might be something you might be able to forego, because it means that when you buy the house, you might likely do a bit of renovation, you know, to make it to your taste. But at least the structure should already be in a form that, you know, you can move in without regrets. The schools nearby will never change. So if it's a bad school nearby, I don't think there's anything that you can do that will suddenly make it a beautiful school in the length of time you're going to live there, right? Yeah. So such things will likely be more important to you. And so it's important that you have these things written down, clearly defined on your checklist. Okay, these are the things that are important to us. No matter what happens, no matter how beautiful the house looks, if it doesn't have these factors, we are not gonna, you know, go on that house. We're gonna pass on it and move to the next one. So yeah. So, and because of these things that we've talked about, it means that you might likely need to renovate depending again on your market. So if you're buying a house in Toronto, these homes are largely, as in, I believe that for most first-time home buyers whose affordability will be around that 400 to 600, most times, you know, the homes within that range would be older houses, because that's already the reason why they are selling them at that price, right? So yeah, so you might just have to prepare in your mind that it might not just look beautiful. So if your friend lives in Nova Scotia, again, like I'm saying, and with 500k they are buying like a house that has like 2 parking garages
with a very large backyard,
with a very large backyard that their children can run and in fact screaming, please know that it might not be the same. I'm saying this because when the reality sets in, you might even consider moving out of Ontario. You might get to the point where you be like, what am I even still doing here? To be honest, you know, we lived in Calgary for a bit before we came to Ontario. We said it in our first video. Go ahead to watch it. So, when it was time to buy a house, to be honest, we have work here. This is where we both work. But, I'll go and look at houses. I'll be like, what is this? Like, with my affordability, I will buy in fact, you know how they say, a beautiful home, new home in Calgary. But here in Ontario, the homes I was seeing were homes like, first of all, they are older homes, like, you know, 1970 homes, 1980 homes. I'm like, what is this? Like, do you understand? So that can make you question even where you live. But if you're determined, again, from your scope, that this is where you want to live, keep your eyes on that place. Don't be wondering about, even though you go Calgary, go Nova Scotia, do you have a job there? Why do you want to start moving to Calgary because of us? So yeah, so you just have to tell yourself at some point, Ontario it is, except truly you are ready to move. Then of course, please, if that's your situation, then you carry your bag and reject.
So the next point we are going to talk about will be getting a pre-approval and finding a mortgage broker. So mortgage brokers are people who help you look out for lending institutions, like banks or microfinance or any kind of lending institution that can lend you the money for the house. So finding one is very important. A lot of banks, like the major banks, they have in-house mortgage brokers, but basically those in-house mortgage brokers would only provide mortgages from the bank. But finding someone who is not restricted to a bank, the person can shop around. So the person can now tell you, based on my findings and the business I've done with these people, go with this mortgage lender. Do you understand?
Yes.
Rather than restricting yourself to just one bank,
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty sure they understand. That's not asking who do it. Please, do you understand our students? Anyway, yeah, for sure. So yeah, right, like he rightly said, right? You want to ensure that you have a good broker. How do you get a good broker? Again, from your research. So somebody you know might have already bought a house. That way, if you are within the same locality, you can ask the person for the broker that they used. Yeah. So of course you don't pay this person. So bear that in mind that you're not the one to pay the broker. The broker is going to get his commission from whoever eventually lends you the money. But while you're trying to assess them, please, have a conversation with these people. Now I'm going to tell you guys an interesting story. So the broker has a personality trait. Some brokers are more forward and they can be very positive. They'll tell you, don't worry, you get the house. Like, so long as they know your affordability, they're kind of confident that you're going to get the lending approved. There are some of them who are a bit more conservative, like pessimistic, I would say. So we had two brokers that were funny. One would always give us like, don't worry, Betsy, just send us the documents, send us your pay slips, get those pay slips, just ask us for some stuff. The other one was just, make sure you don't offer on any house until I pre-approve you. Like as though he was scared we will not get pre-approved. So when you have that kind of vibe, I don't really know how to explain it, but you just tell that this other person is likely to give you trouble, while this other one looks like, a can-do attitude. So I don't know, it's like you're hiring someone, right? You want to just tell from their traits. So interview these people, ask them questions. Of course, you can research these several questions to ask your broker ahead of time. We're not going to go into all of those details, but it's just important that you hire someone that matches your interest, that looks like someone you can hire. If you were to, hire a staff, does this person look like someone I want to work for me? Yeah, have that person in your corner, because he's going to be the one negotiating on your behalf. I've noticed that most brokers, they prefer people who have like a permanent job as opposed to like contract staff. It's not like contracts that can't buy you, but your income again, they want it to not be so volatile, right? They also want people who have done their probation period, so you've worked enough in your job to be a full-time staff. So you're not still on probation or anything. You're not and then they also like people who have like a full-time income. So for instance, you don't work like 4 hours a day as opposed to working the full 8 hours. So so they just like things that are like, that are secure. I think that's the word to use, right? That are secure. So just bear that in mind as well, that it may come up, it might ask you what kind of work you do, contract or permanent, blah, blah, blah. All of these can determine the interest rate. They will still borrow you, it's just that based on, of course, the humanitarian part of all of this, they would assess you and say, okay, should we give them the entire money or not, just because of how volatile they think your place in your employment is.
Yes, volatility increases risks.
Of course.
Because if your risk level for them increases, then that means they have to charge you more in order to cover for the risk.
Yeah, so guys, we've talked about points 1 to 5 so far. We've talked about doing your research, which was our point 0. We didn't give you the number. And we've talked about the credit score. We've talked about, determining your down payment and saving it up. We've also talked about the affordability. We've talked about location and finding like your desired checklist and all of that, where you want to buy. And last, we've talked about this pre-approval stage with a mortgage broker. So this is the first part of this video. We're going to do a second part just because talking about buying a home in Canada is quite a lengthy process and we don't want to choke it up. But please watch out for the next video, which is likely uploading right after this video. Back to back, I'm giving you guys, because we want to share. This is how we are as a couple. We like to share our experiences. At least you guys know on this channel I always share my experiences regardless of what it is about. Academic, motherhood. Now this is like more or less family and settling in Canada. So you guys should don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and watch the next video, which is going to be the concluding part of actually buying your house. In fact, I think the next video will be more interesting because that's where the sweet things start to happen. Now it's just been all documentation. Alright guys, thank you guys for watching. Dostan, what do you have to say to my viewers?
Thank you for having us. Thank you for allowing us share our experiences with you. We appreciate that you're here and you watch and you're subscribing and you're liking.
It's okay.
We appreciate the comments. They mean a lot to us.
Oh, thank you. Take good care, guys. Bye.